How you going? Supposed to be at home. Hop out the car for us. Hop out the car for us right now. You're breaching Section 28 of the Emergency Management Act, and we're placing you under arrest for breaching that because you're not complying.
It was, really, really malicious, this whole arrest was, and how planned and targeted it was.
She's low risk as far as the COVID risk is concerned, but due to just the constant non-compliance and that sort of stuff, we've found her out and about, so she needs to be home and she's not doing it. So.
Good mate, how are you?
Oh mate, going real well.
Nice.
Yeah. So we've got young Maria here. She's going to be going to watch house. We'll look to refuse bail on her.
The vast majority of us have moved on from the madness of COVID. However, all these years on, some people, especially those who were bravest at the time, are still fighting for justice, like Maria, who was dubbed South Australia's most dangerous woman. Maria, thanks for joining us. Tell us from the beginning what happened.
We went away on a holiday, my mum and I, to the Northern Territory, Uluru. Upon returning back to South Australia, because we were driving, they advised us that we would have to drive straight to home without stopping for petrol, without stopping for a toilet stop, because we were high risk being unvaccinated, and we had to drive home. From that point, it was 13 hours to drive home from Marla to Adelaide. And upon arriving to our home, we had to stay in quarantine under house arrest for 7 days.
On November 26, police arrive to your house and they essentially give you a new set of restrictions.
Returning SA residents who have been in the Northern Territory since the 10th of November, you're considered level 4. So I don't know if you can... You're level 4 because you're unvaccinated, So you're required to get tested on days 1, 5 and 13, self-quarantine for 14 days, and you must wear a face mask covering your mouth and nose at any time that you come into contact with the public or for a period of 14 days after your arrival in South Australia.
We can see that they've given you the directions in how to comply. You essentially were saying, cool, we're going to do it, whatever. The next footage from body-worn camera is another random inspection of your compliance.
Hello, how you going? Just looking for Maria. No worries, just doing a quarantine check.
Officer, before we go ahead, can I just request you on what grounds you are trespassing on private property? How did you end up here?
Hop the fence.
And is it lawful?
Yes, it is,
Or
yes.
is it criminal?
Nah,
On what
lawful
grounds?
under the Emergency Management Act. So we're here to do a quarantine check because I believe Maria and yourself are supposed to quarantine as you were directed to on Friday. Is that refreshing your memory?
Yeah, and we are here.
Beautiful, and that's all I'm here to do is make sure that you're here. Okay?
2nd of December, they come to your house and that interaction all ends with the attending officers threatening to breach you on the Emergency Act because you didn't want to come out and talk to them or whatever.
Can you come out here, please?
Can you please just...
Tatiana, we're the police. We've been on an email. You should have an email.
David needs to send me your names.
Check your email.
David needs to send me your badge numbers and who you are.
I can give you those details, but come and talk to us.
David knows.
Sorry?
Speak to David. David can speak to
David sent us here.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. We speak to
You
him
need-
because if it's not right.
You need to quarantine for another 10 days because you aren't getting tested. You need to.
Put us in writing.
It'll be in the email. If you fail to comply, you will be given a fine.
What I'm not understanding is, well, weren't they just doing a compliance check? They could clearly see you were complying, you were at home. Why did they need you to come to the gate? And didn't that kind of defeat the whole purpose of being in isolation? I can't see how that's a breach of even their directions.
No, that's right. It was just all purely harassment and intimidation. And police had visited almost every second or third day in that space of 11 days. They were coming at random times. They were coming in the evenings,
They were trying to catch you out.
They were trying to catch us out.
Okay,
exactly.
so this is what I don't understand. December 5th, 2021, you're in your car, you get pulled over. We hear the officer who's approached you. We hear him take a phone call, I'm assuming from his sergeant or whatever.
This is an ongoing issue with the person that we found. She's out and about breaching quarantine all the time. So I would have thought that the courts will be, or at least the cells will be looking to refuse bail and send her to court. Yeah, that's all we've got. That's all we've got. She's low risk as far as the COVID risk is concerned, but look, due to just the constant non-compliance and that sort of stuff, we've found her out and about, so she needs to be home and she's not doing it. So
clear as day, their intentions stating 1, that you were never a risk to them in their eyes, 2, that they were seriously abusing the system and abusing the emergency powers to lock you up and refuse you bail. How did you feel when you watched that footage for the first time?
It was, really, really just proved how malicious this whole arrest was and how planned and targeted it was.
Now, let me ask you, they didn't give you a chance to answer. Why were you out of your house at that time?
I was on my way home from a testing station.
A testing station was one of the places you were allowed to go, wasn't it?
Exactly.
So there really was no grounds. All right, I have to stop this a second. I know you keep looking at my t-shirt thinking how much you want one. Well, I have good news for you today. This is part of our new Aussie range, rebelstore.com.au. You can get one for yourself. Check out all the new epic designs. You can look as good as me while standing for something you believe in and supporting your favorite news network all at the same time, rebelstore.com.au. Let's get back to the story.
So I was loaded up with charges, 4 charges essentially. The first was for failing to provide my particulars, which were actually given to me at the time of pulling me over. So it was clear they knew who I was. My car was registered to me.
Well, they were saying that you're a low risk and non-compliant and they want to lock you up. So surely they ID'd you. Okay, exactly. What was the second charge?
Exactly. Second charge was for failing to comply with a COVID direction, which was for not quarantining, apparently, not getting tested, so failing to comply with another COVID direction.
So the final charge was to do with medication that wasn't in your name or something?
That's correct, that I couldn't prove to them at the time that it was in my name because it was my friend's.
So a random charge that they just managed to get by searching your car. So they were charge stacking. They really just want to get you for anything.
I was sent to the Adelaide Women's Prison in the highest isolation cell, so solitary confinement.
How long were you in solitary for?
12 days and 1 day at the City Watch House, so 13 in total. At the time, I was actually put in a cell with another girl. So while we waited to be admitted, and they had to run all of their tests, do all of their questioning. I spent a whole 3 hours sitting next to another girl in a cell, being such a high risk. I was supposedly, never actually called a high risk, but I was deemed to had put the whole state of South Australia at risk.
Then what happened? You got released on bail?
So 17th of December, I was released with an ankle tracker, and my first hearing was listed for the 20th of December, and I was granted supervised bail. But here's the catch. So my bail conditions were granted on 2 bases. One of them was that had the state gone into a lockdown or if there was any emergency situation, I would have to comply with all SA Health directions, which included getting tested and getting vaccinated. And if I didn't comply with those directions, I'd go back to prison. There was another direction that came out that said that I had to go to a police station every few days to undertake testing that was completely not related to any of my charges. So gunpowder testing, drug testing, alcohol testing, security testing. Nothing that was relevant to any of my charges. For me to be able to enter the correctional services or the police station, I actually had to be masked up. I had a medical condition. I had a medical exemption preventing me from actually being able to wear a mask at the time. So I wasn't able to comply with my bail conditions. So I had to actually sign them under duress out of the fear of having to experience what I had gone through just a few days prior.
We did see that a lot, even here in Victoria, where essentially they were putting people on bail so that they can get them on breach of bail for not complying with the COVID-19 restrictions, because at first, like you said, they were just a fine. But if it was part of your bail conditions, it then becomes now a breach of bail, with it, which itself is a much more serious criminal offence.
My day in court actually started in November 2023. So I was listed for a 3-day trial, which is usually what very high cases are listed for in the Supreme Court. None of my charges were indictable. They were all called summary offences, which I was actually imprisoned for. I had 12 police officers attesting against me. Prior to the second day of the trial recommencing, the police prosecution actually advised me that they were going to abandon the case.
And that why?
They didn't want to give me a reason, despite I asked. And I questioned the fact, was it a case of malicious prosecution, false arrest and unlawful imprisonment, but I wasn't given any response. They actually refused to respond to me. On the day of the trial, because it had already commenced and the pleadings had been made, police couldn't actually abandon the case. The court had to acquit me, and they found me not guilty.
How did it feel being acquitted, being found not guilty for all that period of time? It almost feels like the process is a punishment for something that they said at the end you were not guilty of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, I was in my prime years at the time. You know, I was a 31-year-old. I was in the prime of my career, a relationship. As a result of this ordeal, everything fell apart. It took 1.5 years of my life away. It tarnished my reputation. It demoted my career. It broke my family. So despite the fact that we can say it was, you know, essentially a win, it was a big loss for myself and my family for what we had endured.
So you're taking the fight to them?
Yes. Yeah, that's currently in the process. But to this day, South Australia Police still holds the position that they were not guilty and not malicious in any way, shape or form. But I was really successful in obtaining what's called a freedom of information, and that has some very compelling evidence. This was written by the police officer who targeted me, who pursued me. He stated in his correspondence to the prosecutor, who advised him at the time that he was wanting to withdraw the charges. He stated, if SAPOL were to withdraw the matter, it would likely fuel the defendant's view that police not proceeding with the matter is an attempt to cover up police corruption and misadministration. Additionally, it would reduce the public confidence in South Australia Police. So essentially that says that it was purely a case of wanting to obtain a conviction and cover up police fraud and corruption.
If you think it's important for the world to hear Maria's story, make sure to like, comment, but most importantly, share it far and wide. And then, yes, head over to rebelstore.com.au. Get yourself some of the new awesome merch, like the t-shirt I'm wearing right now. You can't stop looking at rebelstore.com.au. Look as good as me while standing for what you believe in and supporting your favorite news network all at the same time. rebelstore.com.au.